of President Yoweri Museveni, who met investors at the ongoing retreat in Kyankwanzi. Now, President Yoweri Museveni met and held discussions with a delegation from the Hawaii Telecommunications Uganda at the National Leadership Institute in Kyankwanzi. During the meeting, the Hawaii team announced plans to establish digital village prototype in Uganda. President of Hawaii Sub-Saharan Africa region, Hova Gora, informed the president that the project will demonstrate the transformative power of digital infrastructure in rural communities. Gore highlighted the benefits of a smart village initiative, which includes smart classrooms, learning centers, remote diagnosis, and smart PVS solar at no cost to the Ugandan government. He pointed out that the initiative aligns with Uganda's national strategy for rural development. President Museveni expressed support for the project. Samo Muchala Fausaya, Public Relations Manager of Hawaii Technologies, Uganda, informed the president that Butaleja district has been identified for the pilot study of the smart village. She emphasized the project's potential to contribute to the parish development model, PDM, by promoting digital transformation and sustainable growth through ICT. She also noted that the initiative will establish a remote diagnosis system to connect village health centers with national and regional hospitals.
Now moving on, the zoo at Entebbe, which became Uganda Wildlife Education Center in 1994, looks after 312 animals categorized in 74 species. However, the center has a 24-hour surveillance system to protect the animals, especially rhinos, which are highly sought for their horn. Members of the committee, that is the Kosase Committee, were however disappointed to hear that the Uganda Wildlife Education Center only has 2 rhinos which have not produced. The Executive Director, Uganda Wildlife Education Center, Dr. James Musinguzi, said they are working out a project to introduce competition among them. The chairman of the committee asked the executive director whether they considered applying artificial insemination. Officials were also questioned on why they took many years to think about having a sophisticated laboratory to carry out multiplication of animals. Uganda Wildlife Education Center also developed a lion recovery strategy to help in multiplication of the lions, whose number is dwindling from national park day by day because of human-wildlife conflict. The head of lion recovery in Uganda Wildlife Education Center estimates that Chidepo is left with between 15 to 10 lions. Bukimbiri County Member of Parliament, Eddie Kwizera, a member of the committee, was concerned about why these continue to appear before the committee as Uganda Wildlife Education Center, and yet Parliament in the rationalization bills merged it under Uganda Wildlife Authority.
And moving on, 3 legislators, including Michael Mawanda of Igara East Constituency, Ignatius Wamukuye, Mudimi, Elgon County, and Paul Akamba, Busiki County, City Lawyer Julius Kiria, Taitana Koko, and Leonard Kavumbira, the Assistant Registrar in the Ministry of Finance, were paraded at the Anti-Corruption Court to proceed with the corruption-related cases. The 5 allegedly diverted public funds with conspiracy to defraud over 7.3 billion meant for compensation of Bukaya Growers Cooperative Society Limited. The case is before Chief Magistrate Joan Asiro. Through their counsel, the accused asked court for bail. They further presented sureties, including members of parliament, which included Dennis Nyangweso, Derek Kabula, among others, plus submitting land titles and bank statements showcasing their financial stability. However, prosecution led by Adrian Awesingire prayed to court for more time to verify the documents and do a background check on both the applicants and the sureties. The defense lawyers had no objection in prosecution prayers. With this, Chief Magistrate Joan Asiro adjourned the case to the 18th of July this very year for further hearing. Prosecution alleges that Mawanda, Wamakuyu, Akamba, and Chira and Kavundira committed the offense between 2019 and 2023.
Still in court, Buganda Road Chief Magistrates Court has set 12th July 2024 to deliver its ruling in an application where former Lubaga Division RCC Anderson Burora is challenging the legality of the charges labeled against him. However, prosecution led by Richard Birivumbuka asked court to maintain the charge sheet on grounds that defense has to indicate how defective are the charges and to prove the particular rules breached by prosecution in the charge sheet. Former Lubaga Division RCC Anderson Burora has appeared before Buganda Road Chief Magistrates Court to answer charges of spreading hate speech and malicious information against Speaker of Parliament Anita Annett Among. During the last court session, Burora's legal team challenged the legality of the charges against their clients. Prosecution led by Richard Birivumbuka asked court to maintain the charge sheet on grounds that since the offense was committed via Burora's X-App profile, the details are well spread on his handle, which will be brought in court as evidence. Birivumbuka also challenged defense for not citing any particular rules breached by prosecutors and for not attacking the contents of the charges before the accused to plea. Prosecution asked court to dismiss the defense prayers, although the Burora's lawyers objected to the prayers. Magistrate Ronald Kaizi has now set 12th July 2024 to deliver his ruling over this issue. The accused Anderson Burora has been further remanded. Burora is represented by lawyers David Kamkama and Philip Munabi. Now with that, we end the first segment of our news, but we still have more, and Chantal Olive will be taking us through the news across the borders.
So according to a politician in South Korea, women are the cause of the rise in male suicides, and this politician is being criticized for making dangerous and unsubstantiated comments after linking a rise in male suicides to the increasingly dominant role of women in society. In a report, Seoul City Councillor Kim Ki-duk argued women's increased participation in the workforce over the years has made it harder for men to get jobs and to find women who wanted to marry them. He said this country had recently begun to change into a female-dominant society and that this might partly be responsible for an increase in male suicide attempts. South Korea has one of the highest suicide rates among the world's rich countries, but also has one of the worst records of gender equality. Councillor Kim's comments have been criticized as the latest in the series of out-of-touch remarks made by male politicians. Councillor Kim from the Democratic Party arrived at his assessment when analyzing data on the number of suicide attempts made at bridges along Seoul's Han River. Away from that, U.S. President Joe Biden has welcomed NATO leaders to Washington, D.C. with a forceful speech that seemed pitched to reassure allies overseas and closer to home that he can fight off a looming election challenge from Donald Trump. In brief but strongly delivered remarks at the opening of the summit, the president declared the military alliance more powerful than ever as it faces its greatest challenge in a generation with the war in Ukraine. He called it a pivotal moment for Europe and the world, warning that autocrats have overturned global order. Mr. Biden announced more military aid for Ukraine's beleaguered air defenses. The war will end with Ukraine remaining a free and independent country, Mr. Biden said in remarks reading from a teleprompter yesterday afternoon. Russia will not prevail, Ukraine will prevail. Mr. Biden and the leaders of Germany, Italy and Netherlands and Romania are donating Patriot missile batteries and other air defense systems to Ukraine, and the US president spoke for about 13 minutes in a clear voice, a marked difference from his fumbling and softly spoken tone during last month's debate. Now back to Africa. Kenyan doomsday cult leader Paul Ntenge Mackenzie appeared in court in the Indian Ocean port city of Mombasa on Monday at the start of a high-profile trial over the starvation deaths of more than 400 of his followers. Mackenzie faces terrorism charges and is also accused of murder, manslaughter, kidnapping and torturing children, along with 49 other defendants. The leader of a Kenyan doomsday cult went on trial on Monday on charges of terrorism over the deaths of more than 400 of his followers in a macabre case that shocked the world. Self-proclaimed Pastor Paul Ntenge Mackenzie appeared in court in the Indian Ocean port city of Mombasa along with 94 co-defendants, an AFP journalist reported, and journalists were removed from the courtroom shortly after the start of the hearing to enable a protected witness to take the stand. Mackenzie, who was arrested in April last year, is alleged to have incited his acolytes to starve to death in order to meet Jesus. Interesting report. And lastly, matters climate. The climate change crisis has attracted attention from all government institutions and partners to champion actions which are aimed at slowing down the crisis. There are numerous interventions in Uganda, and Uganda is undertaking these very interventions to address climate change, with some of them being financed by the government, development partners, civil society and other players. All our interventions as a country are guided by the National Climate Change Agenda, which is clearly defined in the Climate Change Policy of 2015, and the action plan is defined in the Nationally Determined Contribution 2020-2030, a 10-year plan. To address climate change as a country, we base our actions on the 4 categories or subjects, which are adaptation, where you have to provide irrigation facilities, properly designed roads, awareness creation and planting resilient crop varieties. 2, mitigation, how we address causes of climate change. 3, implementation. 4, policies, laws and regulations. All the above subjects are critically enabled by the latter. The Ministry of Water and Environment coordinates implementation of all climate change actions across the spectrum in all the public sectors, non-government organizations, private sector, and others. And that leads us to the end of our climate news and what is happening across the globe.
Now, Chantal, one of the stories you shared from South Korea indicates that women's dominance in the workforce is allegedly leading to increased suicides among men in South Korea, one of the world's richest countries.
Right. I'd love to say something, but it's going to sound very controversial.
I would like for you to say it, but I would like to hear from Sonko to tell us whether he thinks that there is some truth in this allegation.
Well, there is truth. The mere fact that it's in the news, there is truth in it.
Is there truth, really? Women's dominance in the workforce is leading to male suicide.
No, I think...
How do you correlate the two?
Now, how you do is the kind of competition and the aggressiveness in most of the women, or from most of the women, might make some of the other men feel like they are not worth being in these environments.
Well, that's a them
and
problem.
You know, exactly.
How are we blaming
because even
women
when you come to think of the suicide, you're not going to blame it on so many people. It's you who has come up with the decision.
Thank you. That's a them problem. You see, according to Councillor Kim, apparently back then women were not in these spaces. So now it's time to have the conversation. Are the men failing to compete with the women, especially when it comes to that world, say in terms of work and jobs? Are we saying that men, I'm gonna say this on live television, are we saying that men cannot gather themselves and have the strength to outcompete the women if they so feel like the women are
rivalries.
dominating these
That's just a
spaces,
rivalry.
it's just a question.
Robert here says that women have
Women
a
have a
rivalry. They've
rivalry.
just arrived. But
So,
this
You know,
time is
the,
of...
the way they look at things when and some women when in these positions, even you can see some of our politicians, there are things they do. And
The reason
someone will
as to why
simply
you
say,
do not think men have a
Anyway,
rivalism
women.
is because we have
So they
normalized
frustrate,
it.
they-
But
No,
men
unfortunately,
rivalry
okay,
is a problem.
Chantal and Robert, this conversation just got heated. Unfortunately, we have to delve into the press review, but I promise you, off air, we are going to go at it.
Well, in the press review, the New Vision is highlighting that 6 parish chiefs have been arrested for parish development model cash. The president has ordered a crackdown and dismissal of these parish chiefs. Then in the Majes Public Service House recruitment, then there is a pictorial of details regarding hailstorm kills over 200 animals. Which region is that? There's a primary school pupil attempting to carry a hailstone after a destructive storm hit Toroma sub-county in Katakwi district. Then potholes. Prime Minister Nabanja explains delayed city road works. As also Katanga murder, police officers testify. Now Red Cross is to mark 60 years or is marking 60 years of existence. Then the Daily Monitor, new government jobs rule, fire before you hire, according to what is in the Daily Monitor. Now power struggle rocks the National Council of Higher Education as Okwakol rejects Katunguka. Then freedom eludes remanded members of parliament again. The graft charges continue. Then homes knowing apartments by their class stripes. Find details in the Daily Monitor. Stomach ulcers, the symptoms and treatment. Something that I will definitely be looking forward to reading. Then repeat bills, number of agencies whose repeal bills have been passed by Parliament is 19. Then 60,847 are jobs the Auditor General found unoccupied for more than 2 years in government, in the government agencies, with a number of approved positions in 75 ministries, departments and agencies, and 167 local governments. The number is 133,670. Those are the approved positions so far. Now to Kenya, the Daily Nation, a Ruto-Raila government. The question asks, politics, president announces 6 days of dialogue as youth reject the talks between the two politicians. Now groundwork laid for appointment of a new look independent electoral commission of Kenya. And then also they left me for dead, says abducted student. Then how forged DNA papers help man dodge child support. Little to separate England and Netherlands in today's Euro 2024 semi-finals. Then business, DRC now Kenya's fastest growing EAC export front. Then lastly from the press reviews, The Citizen, how modern day pastors fleece gullible followers. Then study identifies trees that can protect the crops. Then overwhelming response for standard gauge railway services, says the Tanzania Railway Corporation. National case, ex-RC charged with sexual assault. Well, that is it from our press review this Wednesday.
Well, thank you, Jerome Paul. Chirabo was celebrating a certain item you shared, but I won't let him get into those details. But yeah, DNA test working for men. We commend that. We'll move on and I'll leave you with the song of the day. And when we come back, we will be speaking matters mental health. Stay tuned.
And when I see a woman doing it, it's okay.
Okay. And we also have women in print media. You're going to find them in establishments like the New Vision and many other private media entities. We have bloggers, we have vloggers, we have women starting podcasts. Women in media all across the country. We crush on you this very morning. And we say, keep giving these gentlemen a good run for their money.
For their money, right?
Yes. Please do that.
That conclusion,
Yes.
okay.
Anyway, now we delve into some of the stories that have made news over the last 24 hours. And one that stood out for me yesterday was 7 Chinese nationals that were arrested for illegal sand mining in Rela along Masaka Road. Rela is a swamp, and apparently their license expired at the beginning of this year and they hadn't renewed it. They had been told to restore the wetland and they didn't do that, so they were arrested, and we'll be sharing more on that as we continue with Good Morning Uganda, since we will be having a conversation with the National Environment Management Authority later on in the show. But for now, we share the news stories that we've gathered for you over the last 24 hours.
And we will begin with President Museveni, who met investors at the ongoing retreat in Chankwanzi. Now, President Museveni met and held discussions with a delegation from the Hawaii Telecommunications Uganda at the National Leadership Institute in Chankwanzi. During the meeting, the Hawaii team announced plans to establish digital village prototype in Uganda. President of Hawaii Sub-Saharan Africa region, Hova Goa, informed the president that the project will demonstrate the transformative power of digital infrastructure in rural communities. Goa highlighted the benefits of a smart village initiative, which includes smart classrooms, learning centers, remote diagnosis, and smart PVS solar at no cost to the Ugandan government. He pointed out that the initiative aligns with Uganda's national strategy for rural development. President Museveni expressed support for the project. Samo Muchala Fausaya, Public Relations Manager of Hawaii Technologies Uganda, informed the president that Utaleja district has been identified for the pilot study of the smart village. She emphasized the project's potential to contribute to the parish development model (PDM) by promoting digital transformation and sustainable growth through ICT. She also noted that the initiative will establish a remote diagnosis system to connect village health centers with national and regional hospitals.
Now moving on, the zoo at Entebbe, which became Uganda Wildlife Education Center in 1994, looks after 312 animals categorized in 74 species. However, the center has a 24-hour surveillance system to protect the animals, especially rhinos, which are highly sought for their horn. Members of the committee, that is the Kosase committee, were however disappointed to hear that the Uganda Wildlife Education Center only has 2 rhinos which have not produced. The executive director, Uganda Wildlife Education Center, Dr. James Musinguzi, said they are working out a project to introduce competition among them. The chairman of the committee asked the executive director whether they considered applying artificial insemination. Officials were also questioned on why they took many years to think about having a sophisticated laboratory to carry out multiplication of animals. Uganda Wildlife Education Center also developed a lion recovery strategy to help in multiplication of the lions, whose number is dwindling from National Park Day by day because of human-wildlife conflict. The head of lion recovery in Uganda Wildlife Education Center estimates that Chidepo is left with between 15 to 10 lions. Bukimbiri County Member of Parliament Eddie Kwizera, a member of the committee, was concerned about why these continue to appear before the committee as Uganda Wildlife Education Center, and yet Parliament in the rationalization bills merged it under Uganda Wildlife Authority.
And moving on, 3 legislators, including Michael Mawanda of Igara East constituency, Ignatius Wamukuye, Mudimi, Elgon County, and Paul Akamba, Busiki County, City Lawyer Julius Kiria, Taitanakoko, and Leonard Kavumbira, the Assistant Registrar in the Ministry of Finance, were paraded at the Anti-Corruption Court to proceed with the corruption-related cases. The 5 allegedly diverted public funds with conspiracy to defraud over 7.3 billion meant for compensation of Bukaya Growers Cooperative Society Limited. The case is before Chief Magistrate Joan Asiro. Through their counsel, the accused asked court for bail. They further presented sureties including members of parliament, which included Dennis Nyangweso, Derek Kabu.
We have had conversations around mental health, and we have had conversations still around mental illness. These two sometimes are mixed up by people, because sometimes people talk about mental health when they actually mean mental illness. But what is more important is having a conversation basically regarding the overall mental well-being of us. We have had conversations that 1 in every 5 Ugandans, in every 10 Ugandans is depressed, and many of the sort. So what is mental health? What is mental illness? And how best can we improve our mental health in a multifaceted approach? That's the conversation we are having this morning. And I have a very enlightening person that is the best person to have this conversation with us. That is Dr. Rita Sonko, the founder of Toliweka. Toliweka in layman's language means you are not alone. So let's delve into the conversation. Good morning, Doctor, and welcome to Good Morning Uganda.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. Good morning. Good morning to the viewers.
All right. So when we say mental health and then mental illness or mental well-being, what exactly do we mean? How do we distinguish these three?
It's a very important question. You have to look at health as a spectrum.
Yes.
So on the one end, you have perfect health, if there's anything as, like perfect health. And then on the other end, you have mental illness. So we are all on this sliding scale. And it's very similar to your physical body. So today you wake up and you're in perfect health, you're feeling great, so you're on that end of the scale. And then maybe tomorrow something happens, unfortunately, as life goes, and you're not feeling that well. So physically, we know that very well in our physical being, that sometimes you're good, very good, and sometimes you're not. But when it comes to the mind, people don't really kind of get it. And it's kind of difficult for people to assimilate the idea that mental health is actually a fairly neutral term. It's neutral, and it means that you could be well or you could be unwell.
Okay.
So when you're unwell, that's when you're talking about the illness. But otherwise, you want to be on the scale of being well. So maintaining your mental well-being is really what's important. And when we're talking about mental health, we're talking about your thoughts, your emotions, how you feel about yourself and how you relate to other people, and how all of this impacts the way you function as a human being. So that's what we mean by mental health and mental well-being. Okay. So, and that is really what is important for us to maintain. And of course, there are many factors that will impact your feelings and emotions on any given day. And when it becomes uncontrollable, when you're unable to control how you feel, because of either chemical changes in your brain or something that has happened that keeps you on the negative side, then that might end up being now a diagnosable illness that requires treatment.
All right. Now we also have a young woman with us this morning, and she's a psychology graduate. That is Patricia Mosimenta. Now we have also seen reports that many young people in Uganda are dealing with mental health related challenges. So Patricia, first of all, welcome to Good Morning Uganda.
Thank you for having me.
And then one would wonder, as a young person, many go for different sectors in terms of training. What inspired you to pursue a career in mental health?
Thank you so much for having me, first of all. What drove me to pursue this particular degree or career was a passion to help people, especially mentally, because at the time I entered this course, I noticed that we needed help, especially in Africa right now. There is a stigma about it. There is, and yet for most people, by the time they are identified or diagnosed as mentally ill, it started from just a stress of just one thing, and then it built up, and because, especially like for men, they are told you are men, you do not have to cry, you don't talk about certain things.
Yes.
And you start growing up with that mentality of, this is how we do things, this is how we should do it, and this is how we shall go about it. So you realize there's a trend as Africans, and we are trying to open up the discussion. It's okay. You're going through this, it's fine. Identify it, go through it, and succeed out of it. Like thrive out of it. Don't stay as a victim, but become a victor out of it.
Okay, don't stay a victim, but become a victor. That's very important. Now, Patricia, still with you. As a student at university, are there things that you have identified or challenges that you have identified among people your age, among the youth, that you feel are driving them to the edge mentally?
What I would say is, especially after the lockdown, the COVID, and then there's a way relationships have started having their own shape. People are becoming more dependent on, like, I have this relationship with this person, I'm dependent on this person. And among the youth especially, it's more of, I have to succeed. So if I don't reach a certain level, or if I do not reason the way someone reasons, then I'm a failure. I do not deserve to be here. I remember reading a story of one who, she committed suicide, and we believe it's because she did not pass her exams, because it was just a week to graduation. So it's a possibility that maybe she didn't pass one paper or two and wasn't going to be able to graduate, and she had this very close relationship with her father, and she's like, I can't face my dad.
I can't disappoint him.
I can't disappoint him.
Well, that's really sad. Now, Dr. Rita, coming back to you, can you give an overview, a general overview of the mental health situation in the country?
Currently, from what we are seeing with the data, even as we've done any assessments with young people, we are finding that there's actually a big problem. We've looked at data that's available from different programs, and they tell us that at the end of the day, you will find that 3 out of 10, even more, 3 to 4 out of 10 youth, especially in Uganda, are really struggling with probable depression or other diagnoses that have to do with poor mental health. And like Patricia is saying, there's just so many stressors for the youth. In addition to obviously being in this global situation, they are connected to a whole entire world. They are actually isolated. They are not, they don't have personal relationships. They don't know how to build those relationships. They are stuck on their gadgets and tweeting and doing all of these things all the time. So those skills, those socio-emotional skills that are really essential for resilience are actually missing among our young people, and that's a big challenge. But in addition to that, it's not just the young people that are stressed and having challenges who are going through difficulties. The adults as well. The world is changing, and it's really constrained. The economics, survival is difficult. So all of these things are impacting Ugandans, and these are things that we need to talk about. And a bigger issue that we have, I think Patricia alluded to it, is this stigma. There's such a big stigma when it comes to mental health. When you talk about mental health, people even make fun. That, are you talking about Butabika? You mean I'm going to be in Butabika or something like that? It's because people don't really fully understand what we are talking about. And the more we engage in these conversations, the more people understand that actually when you have a mental illness, it's not that you have been bewitched, for example, or you've been possessed. Sometimes, faith communities will want to rather pray for you rather than take you to a hospital or to a psychologist to see you at a clinic. And so if we can help people understand that the mind gets illnesses just like the body. When you wake up with a fever, you have a fever and you get it treated, right? So you don't kind of say, oh, well, I'm just gonna, either go to a witch doctor or, you know, pray about it. Yes, you pray, but in addition to prayer,
You're
actually
medicine.
seek health care, because that's where, you know, those professionals come in to really help you. And for us to do more to provide mechanisms for people to know how they are doing. How are you feeling? Do those self-assessments. When you come to a GP, we will normally do a blood pressure check, for example, because you cannot know that you have high blood pressure unless we check it. So similarly, for mental illnesses or, you know, poor mental health, unless we actually do those screening tests and provide tools for people to do that, they will never know. And if you come to a doctor and we don't actually ask you anything about your mental health, and we just deal with the physical, we'll manage the physical, but you get away still, you know, with whatever you came with that was had to do with your mental health. And so we really need to find a way to balance this thing and support the person holistically. We are body, mind, and spirit. We are not just the body or the mind, but we are 3 in 1.
We are 3 in 1.
Yeah, so if we can manage the 3 parts that we are and seek the right help for each of those parts, and hopefully, you know, get a holistic picture, an integrated way of managing ourselves, that is the way that we are going to actually improve our mental well-being overall, but also improve the way we function and the way we can be productive as citizens of this country and, you know, achieve our purpose.
I agree. I agree. So, Doctor, there are many misconceptions when it comes to poor mental health and mental well-being. What are some of those that stand out the most?
That's a great question. Of course, I touched on people thinking that someone is bewitched. So that's a really common one, where people
especially people that have like schizophrenia.
Oh yeah. So there is that fear that someone has put something in your food or put something on you, and now you're bewitched, and the only cure is going to be to slaughter some goat somewhere and, you know,
but
sacrifice.
Let me ask you a question, Doctor. Let's say we have an introduction ceremony at home, and then the bride eats this food, and suddenly something goes out of hand, and people are like, Bamlozi, they did something. How would you explain that? How does science explain that she was okay a few minutes ago, and then now she's not?
No, it's a great question, but why would you attribute it to being bewitched? It could be anything.
So
it could
give
be
us
anything.
The alternative.
Yeah, so it could be food, for example, food poisoning. It could actually even be stress. You know, a marriage ceremony is a very stressful situation for a bride. There's so much pressure from all sides. You're anxious, you're going through this thing, you don't know. Maybe you're dealing with something already even prior to the occasion, and the occasion tips you over. And that situation now is seen as, oh my goodness, no, this has to be, you know, bewitching. On the other hand, in the faith communities, people believe a lot in demons, you know, so that demons have taken over, and, you know, we need to cast them out. And, you know, that again deters people from actually seeking health care, because they believe they are going to find solutions. But I always ask people that, you know, if someone actually gets a fracture, when people get a fracture, do you actually take them to a hospital for managing that fracture, or do you decide that, you know, they were actually bewitched and you're going to, you know, fix the fracture through witchcraft? So I think it's very important that we get that balanced view, and I think the more we have these conversations, especially when we share real life conversations about the situation and help people understand what are some of the triggers. For example, if someone gets into an accident and loses their sight, that in itself is going to result in significant stress on the mind and potentially depression because of the effect that the accident has had on them. But if we treat them and don't treat their, you know, don't manage them in terms of their mental health, they end up actually in a situation where they are going to be, you know, in a deteriorating mental health situation and end up with poor mental health, illnesses, maybe severe depression that requires us to actually manage. So that holistic integrated management becomes really, really critical, that we don't just manage the surgery for fixing a leg or fixing the eyes, but we actually also intervene in terms of the psychotherapy that they would need to cope with a life-changing situation that they would have.
Okay, so now away from the faith community calling them demons and the other side of faith where they say someone has been bewitched, what are the other misconceptions still around poor mental health?
Yeah, I think the other one is that it's not treatable. The idea that people think that, you know, once you have this illness, nothing can be done. And nothing could be further from the truth. Just like many physical illnesses are chronic, in many cases, meaning chronic, meaning that they are long-term. You know, you have diabetes, it's a long-term illness that has to be managed. Many of the mental illnesses are also chronic. Depression is a chronic illness that has to be managed, but it can actually be treated over time. So people need to understand that. So that misconception that there is no solution is one that we need to certainly dispel.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Rita. We are speaking about improving mental well-being through a multifaceted approach. What is this approach? This is exactly what Dr. Rita Sonko will be sharing with us. And they have a campaign that the Toliweka campaign that is ongoing, and she'll be sharing more about that with us. But now we've been joined by a gentleman that most of you know, and most of you have enjoyed his music. So let's get to hear from Mr. Exodus. Good morning.
Good morning, my dear.
Welcome to Good Morning Uganda.
Thank you so much, and I'm very happy to be here in UBC this early morning to you know, see that we find solutions for a pandemic that is actually eating the globe away. And the unfortunacy about us in Africa, we do not actually know about mental health. You know, you go through mental situations, you do not know where to go, how to seek professional advice. You don't even know, actually, you don't even know what you're dealing with. You understand? So we are so blessed and grateful that Dr. Rita actually, you know, had a heart for this, and she's been doing this for a long time. And we are so grateful that she's chosen Uganda to come back home and actually create awareness and find solutions and help people know how and why and where to get help.
All right, so what makes you in particular very passionate about mental health, mental well-being, and you know, improving one's mental health?
First of all, I want to let people know that I have overcome depression. I dealt with depression for 7 solid years.
Okay.
And I did not know until one time my young brother actually, let me speak about the incident. One unfateful morning, my brother came to my house and I'd passed out. I'd been dealing with a lot of things that had been happening concurrently for 7 years. So this unfateful morning, my brother comes to the house and finds me passed out. And then they take me to Kololo Hospital, and after all checkups, next is when I actually found out that I was dealing with severe depression. And the doctors told me 2 things are going to happen to you if you don't wake up and help yourself. You're either going to die or you're going to run mad. So that was a wake-up call for me as a person. And being in the arts fraternity, this situation has actually affected us so much in a way that creatives find it very hard to come out and speak about mental situations. First of all, because of the stigma, and the second, how media perceives us and how they think we should be. You understand? So many of the creatives are actually dealing with mental health issues, but they don't know where to go, how to deal with it, who to talk to, first of all.
Yes.
You understand? And then third, I came out early this year with my own story about depression. And to my surprise, something that I thought was very, very simple, it just was about me as a person, as an artist, I found out that thousands of people were actually dealing with the same things I am dealing with. You understand? It was so overwhelming. That alone touched me, and I was like, you know what? We need to address this. We need to find solutions. We need to create awareness. And God being God, one fateful morning, Dr. Rita reached out because she saw the story.
Yes.
And she said, Exodus, I think we need to help our people back in Uganda create awareness and find solutions. So I think that's, you know, why we're here this morning.
And you did touch on stigma.
Yes.
I'd like to know, how effectively can we combat stigma, especially among creatives? I'm speaking about creatives because that's where you come from.
Yes, my dear.
And it turns out that many of them are going through things they cannot speak about because, like you said, how we perceive them, how the media perceives, puts
Yes.
them out there. So how can we combat the stigma and give them a well landing ground for them to be able to come out and seek help and also speak about their challenges?
First of all, to let everybody, not just the creatives, everybody, because mental health situations affect everybody in every walk of life. But let me talk about the area I'm in. First of all, we need to let people understand that it is okay to go through things. Second, it is okay to talk about things when you're going through them, because what you talk about lightens the heart, and what you keep inside heavies the heart, and eventually turns out to stress, depression, into severe depression. And the unfortunate thing is most people who have gone into depression never recover. So we have to make it a habit that it is okay to go through, and it is okay to talk about it when you're going through, and it is okay to seek help. We all need it.
Yes.
You are before it's too late.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, thank you so much, Exodus, for sharing your story, but also for these words of encouragement. Now coming back to you, Dr. Rita, tell us more about the Toliweka campaign.
So thank you so much. The Toliweka campaign aims to really, number one, address the awareness issue. We know that we really need to speak extensively about mental illnesses, mental health, and mental well-being, just to give people hope and to give people understanding. Firstly, you know, if you look at any health situation, if you look at HIV, for example, go back to 1985. We didn't have information about HIV. There was such a huge stigma about it. And we started out with campaigns. I always remember Fidel Utaya, you know, and the impact that he had on our population, on our understanding of HIV. And that's perhaps the beginnings of what we are doing here with Exodus, and hopefully more artists will also join us. We need people to understand, what is this thing? What is mental health? What is mental illness? Who can be affected? People think only a certain kind of people can be affected. No, everybody. You
Some
wake
people
up.
think those are white people problems.
Yeah, white people problems, rich people's problems. There is all sorts of myths about, oh, the ones who are rich, who can afford a psychologist or a psychiatrist. Those are the ones, or the ones who, you know, the whites, like you said.
Yes.
But black people, just like white people, all people, brown people, we are all affected. And so Anders creating that awareness that the body, just like the mind, can actually be unwell. So the mind must be prioritized, just like we prioritize. When you have a severe headache, you don't still sit with it. So how do you know that you're going through something that is not quite, you know, affecting your mind, that needs you to pay attention to and seek help? So that's the first important thing we're doing, creating that awareness. Secondly, once you've created awareness, then what? People need to kind of know, okay, where am I? How am I doing myself?
Yes.
So we're working to expand and engaging with the department, the Ministry of Health, to see how do we expand access to services. There are many service providers in the country. How can we increase access to screening services? How do we use digital tools, for example, mental health assessment tools, to make sure that people can do a self-assessment, find out how they're doing, and if the self-assessment tells you that, you know what, you're actually in the orange or the red, where do you go? So that's the next part of the campaign. making sure that people know what to do, people know where to go, people can actually access good quality healthcare when they go to those different places. So working on building a referral system that is going to help people know where to go. And of course, this we have to do with the Ministry of Health, and we're very excited that the ministry has started engaging with us as Toliweka to look at how do we leverage this opportunity. Then the other bit about Toliweka is that multifaceted aspect that you talked about, the multi-sectoral approach, where we're looking at who else do we need to work with. So we're very excited when Ministry of Health organized a meeting, and Ministry of Education was there, Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development was there. And these two ministries are really, really critical because they have influence. For example, education, all the young people, all the children and youth in this country are supported in many ways by that ministry through the education system. And so they can promote mental well-being, they can, through their curriculum, promote the social-emotional learning and improve the skill set, help these children to become more resilient. And that's a big part of our program as well, to work with the Ministry of Education and through the guidance of Ministry of Health to make sure that that happens. And then on the gender side, Ministry of Gender is really concerned about parenting, about how can we improve the situation. Because a lot of the things that tip the children over, the young people that commit suicide, unfortunately, they are too scared to talk to their parents. Maybe they are talking to them and they are not getting the right help. The parents don't even realize that children are going through trouble, and all of this has to be dealt with.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Rita. Now, I understand that there is an event that is upcoming. Please tell us more about this event.
On the 19th of July at Serena Hotel, 5 p.m., we are launching the Toliweka campaign, and we are very excited to be able to do this and partner with many stakeholders to be able to have these conversations. We will have an interesting arrangement at that event. We will have panel discussion, which will be very important to bring together these multi-stakeholders to have these engagements. We hope to obviously have private sector involved as well. Private sector plays a huge role in helping with not only their employees, for example, many of the big organizations employ a lot of people, but also in their corporate social investments, pulling those resources to help. Then we have civil society organizations. We have Rotary clubs, for example. I'm a Rotarian as well. And we try to, we have a mantra which is service above self, going out in communities and addressing these issues. So on that day, we'll be engaging many stakeholders to try and come up with some ideas on how Toliweka can really be impactful and can be utilized to spread the messages. We'll be starting out in urban centers across the country, but hopefully seeping into every community in Uganda. So please, we invite everyone to join those conversations, professional associations that are important in this sector as well, mental health professionals. We will be engaging with them as well to explore how do we improve the quality of services and how do we improve the knowledge and understanding of the people about what services are actually available and where to find those services.
Now, is the event free or there is a fee to it?
So this event has a fee to it because obviously of the cost that is required to have an event at the Serena Hotel, which is a fabulous hotel. So there's a fee of 100,000 for participants. So we are encouraging organizations and individuals who are really passionate about wanting to understand more, wanting to contribute, wanting to do more, to come on board. And of course, for those that can sponsor more people to come, that will be fantastic to have those conversations. We will also have actually a mental health fair where we'll be presenting different tools and resources available that can be utilized in terms of mental health interventions.
Amazing. Yeah. Now, as we wind up, I'll ask you one question, Dr. Rita. It is important to seek professional help, even for mental health. But there is the belief that it is extremely expensive. And also, that belief is not really in isolation because only 1% of our national budget is geared towards mental health. So how do we manage to provide affordable mental health care?
That's a fantastic question, and I think that's why we really have to look at this multi-sector approach, where we are not just leaving it to the government, but also engaging the private sector, for example, to come on board. There's a lot of money being put in corporate social investments. Can those be leveraged as well to lessen the cost of care? Then there are different ways that we can deliver care as well in a way that might be more accessible and affordable. For example, using group-based therapies, where you work with a group as opposed to work with an individual. So a psychologist can actually manage a whole lot of people as a group, as opposed to one-on-one. So that lessens the cost. There are multiple ways to work, and this is why we're having these conversations with the professional bodies, with the private sector, with the government, with the civil society, and trying to get everybody to see the need and to be creative. If we deliver some programs in schools, for example, we also have an opportunity there to leverage the numbers. The children are all together in a group, and in that classroom setting, you can actually deliver very cost-effective intervention around improving their mental well-being through social-emotional learning. So there are all these different ways that we can work, but first and foremost, have the conversations with all these different people, different groups, so we put our minds together and come up with solutions.
Well, that's amazing. Now, as we end this very beautiful, amazing, enlightening conversation, I'd like to hear from you, Exodus. What is your last message to Ugandans out there that are struggling in the dark and are afraid to come out and speak out about the issues that they are going through?
Thank you so much, my dear. Let me start with the incident that happened about a month ago. I think it's about a month ago, 3 weeks ago, where two very able grown men jumped off buildings.
Yes.
You understand? And just decided to take their own lives. Imagine they had awareness and had knowledge about, you know, what you need to do when you're dealing with certain things before it gets to a level where you actually want to take your life. You understand? So me, I want to tell our very beautiful people, it is very okay to talk. Most especially when you get to a place when you find like your mind is starting to wander in places where you're dealing with things you don't even know how to handle. Feel free to find a people you can confide in, for starters, you understand, and talk about what you're dealing with, because whatever we conceal in eats us up.
That's right.
Desperately. So whatever we speak about lightens the heart, and when you talk about something, you find solutions. You understand? So I'm urging and asking and begging our fellow Ugandans, you understand, before it is too late, find the people you can talk to. And me, I'm very grateful that Dr. Rita is a professional, you understand, and she's here to deal with something that hasn't been spoken about, yet it is eating us up like a cancer. You
That's
understand?
Right.
So me, I'm so grateful we're here, and people just need to talk and talk and talk. And talk and find love.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Talk and talk and talk and find love.
Yes.
That's what I'm taking away from this conversation.
Amen.
I'd like to thank you, Dr. Rita Sonko, for speaking with us and enlightening us on matters mental health.
Thank you. Thank you
And
so much.
I would like to thank you, Exodus,
And then-
for speaking with us.
And then we are not just going to be talking on the 19th. As far as it's very important, I'm going to be, you know, part of the great team that will be entertaining, you know, the people that will come that very day. So come expecting entertainment, enlightenment, education, and a lot of that. Yeah.
Yes, and I mean, he has amazing numbers, you know. I wish this was a Friday and he gives us an a cappella and so much more. But I'm going to make sure I get his contact, and he will be right here to entertain us on the Good Morning Uganda Friday special. But thank you so much for coming through, and thank you, Patricia Msmenta, for also coming through and sharing with us. Good Morning Uganda does continue. Jerome Paul is coming to give us business updates. Stay tuned.
Topic of the day on UBC.
Every Wednesday, 10 p.m. on your public broadcaster.
Was brought to you by
You can now get all the Chibuzi out with MTN voice bundles. Call all networks. Kubei Dondoro. Buy a 25-minute voice bundle for only 1,000. Or buy any daily voice bundle of your choice. Dial *100 *21# and select daily or use the My MTN app. When we talk together, we are unstoppable.
Nyati Motion Pictures brings you Tuko Pamoja to the town or city near you between July and December this year. Don't miss Uganda's beautiful stories from east to west, north to south in Tuko Pamoja.
Uganda as we see today never had a name. It had the regions that make it.
The battle for protecting the sovereign Uganda was lost in Dokolo.
Uganda, fortunately for us, is a confluence of all these races, the races of Africa.
Burora would have simply created an East African community that we are looking for today.
The rulers of Burora are actually Luos.
Genetically, we are even similar people.
We are one. Use that word, Pamoja.
To get a ticket, call 0778-787-660. Tuko Pamoja?
A new dawn on Behind the Headlines with me, Timothy Nyangweso. Every Wednesday, live in our studios in the heart of Kampala. We have conversations that have analysis, explanation, but not every truth is fact, and not every fact is truth. Every Wednesday, 10 p.m. on your public broadcaster.
All on your public broadcaster. UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Junko. Yo. Check the shopping, man. What's your secret?
Haven't you heard of the parish development model PDM?
Yes, I did, but I thought it was just a talk.
No, it is real. I and a few friends together formed a circle, accessed money from the PDM, invested in a poultry project, and now things are moving.
Junko. I thought I was one of your friends.
You are.
But you left me behind.
I didn't leave you in poverty. What you do, just visit your LC2 chairperson and your parish chief and start the process of economic transformation. Just like that. The parish development model is an initiative from the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Local Government designed to transform all lives of Ugandans for the better. PDM, my parish, my development, my life.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Well, good morning and many thanks for joining us. It's now time for us to check into the world of business to see what is making headlines and trending from there. But meanwhile, last month was Men's Mental Health. As much as we continue having conversations, we have to remind every man out there that it is okay not to be okay. It is also okay to speak out when you are not doing fine. Find somebody, find time, share whatever you're going through. It is better for us to listen to conversations and have time to at least seek for solutions, better than dying with silence within yourself. And of course, mental health is something that continues to be highly discussed, and it is something that we have to stand up to ensure that we do not lose people to depression or any other sort of mental health illness. Well, that's it. I am Joram Paul Sonko, and it's time for us to check in the world of business. Now, yesterday, the National Environmental Management Authority was in Ruela, that is along the Masaka-Mbara Highway, and they happened to arrest 7 Chinese nationals. Now, these ones were indulging in illegal sand mining. Now, sand mining is a business activity like any other, but however, details to do with the illegalities around mining make it even worse, especially for those who are dealing in it. And that is where we're starting from, because the National Environmental Management Authority arrested 7 Chinese nationals who are carrying out illegal sand mining in Rela Swamp along Kampala-Masaka Highway. According to NEMA, the 7 Chinese were working for one of the private sand mining firms whose activities in Rela were halted following expiry of its operational permit early this year, and the owners failed to restore the area. Now, the said miners were tasked to restore the part of the wetland they had degraded. Now, the restoration exercise aimed at liberating Uganda's wetlands and other fragile ecosystems is part of the series of operations the authorities is currently carrying out across the country. William Lubura, Senior Communications Officer at NEMA, said in a statement which had been issued on 9th of July. Now, wetland degradation is a crime under Section 55 of the National Environmental Act, Cap 181, and is punishable with a fine not exceeding 600 million Ugandan shillings or imprisonment not exceeding 12 years or both. And the operation, which started on July 8th, also saw 13 Sinotruck lorries and 4 excavators and other equipment impounded by NEMA. So the chances are the arrested may have to pay 600 million according to the law, or as well face imprisonment at the end of it all. Now, let's talk cross-border trade. And this time around, the tension between Nairobi and Uganda do continue, or Nairobi and Kampala continues, or Kenya and Uganda continues, because Uganda's Energy and Mineral Resources Minister, Ruth Nankabira, revealed that Kenya increased the requirement on the size of bond fees at the Vito Tank Terminal International Storage Facility in Mombasa from $15 million, posing a bottleneck to Uganda's hopes of lowering pump prices of the commodity. Now, Kenya has thrown a fresh hurdle on Uganda's direct fuel import scheme, doubling the bond fee for imported consignments destined for Kampala to $45 million. Now, Uganda's Energy and Mineral Resources Minister revealed this further and also clarified that this is causing a bottleneck to Uganda's hopes of lowering pump prices of the commodity. Now, when you look at it, Vito Tank Terminal International, which is VTTI, is a privately owned terminal that ties into the Kenyan pipeline company pipeline network in Mombasa, and it then gives access to the Ugandan market and other landlocked countries further in the west, inclusive of which Rwanda, Burundi, name it. Now, a bond fee is a bank guarantee that all importing fuel for the transit market, usually duty-free, use duty-free fuel, where a company uses to secure duties and taxes payable to the relevant revenue authority. Now, for instance, here, the Uganda Revenue Authority, and in Kenya, the Kenyan Revenue Authority. Now, the bond can be used to offset taxes in the case the company decides to dump the fuel locally and help Kenya Revenue Authority avert losing billions of shillings in taxes and levies. Now, sources privy to the matter say that the Ministry of Energy in Kenya wrote to the Kenya Revenue Authority to increase the fee, a charge that is expected to be passed on to the consumers in Uganda. Now, also banks issuing the bonds are likely to take time to increase the amounts to reflect later on in the year. Now, Uganda and Kenya have the joint costliest fuel within the East African community, with 1.46 per litre of super, and then that is in dollars, and then a litre of diesel is going for $1.37 US in Kampala, compared to a $1.33 in Kenya. Well, lastly, from the business updates this Wednesday, we look at the forex market. Close of business yesterday. What does the Ugandan Central Bank reveal in regards to how the different currencies are faring on the exchange? Now, the US dollar was buying at 3,700.68 by opening time, while selling at 3,710.68. By midday, it had increased, but it had dropped to 3.2, while closing time, it had also dropped by 3.2. Now, the US dollar closed also buying at 3,699.64 while selling at 3,709.64. The Great Britain pound buying was at 4,739.60 while selling was 4,752.41. For those buying the euro, it was faring at 4,005.97 shillings while selling was at 4,016.79, and then the Kenyan shilling at 28.84 while selling at 28.92. The Tanzanian shilling still the same from as it was on Monday rather, 1.39 while selling at 1.39. Then the South African rand buying at 204.28 while selling at 204.84. And that does it for our business updates this morning. Chantal Oliver Kandinda right here now with the latest from the world of the traffic updates, taking you through how you can beat the traffic madness in Kampala this very morning. Besides that, Good Morning Uganda continues.
Good morning, my name is Chantal Oliver Kandinda, and here to make sure that you make your way to town in the smoothest way possible, if that word does exist. And at this point, I am around Wampeo Clock Tower, and we're going to be checking different routes to see how we are standing, so that you can get to decide which route to use as you are heading to your next destination. Now, Wampeo Clock Tower has no traffic whatsoever, and as you can see, if I still follow through Wampeo Road, I will be finding no traffic, or call it Wampeo Avenue. There is no traffic, and if you are using the lower Kololo Terrace Road, you are still headed for no traffic whatsoever. And King's African Rifle Drive as well has no traffic. Ngabo Road has no traffic. So in case you use some of those routes, you will have no issues moving. Still, the Upper Kololo Terrace has no traffic whatsoever. Elizabeth Avenue, no traffic. Prince Charles Drive is also clear. Ekobo Avenue is clear. Prince Charles Drive still remains clear, and York Terrace as well still remains clear. Clearly this morning, you don't have so much to worry about in terms of how we are faring when it comes to traffic. Now, if you are trying to join the Wampeo Clock Tower, you'll also be finding no traffic. Still on the Kampala Jinja Highway, there is no traffic whatsoever. The only time you'll be finding a bit of holdups is going to be where you find junctions and lights, traffic lights. It's where usually there's a bit either a holdup or too much traffic, maybe because some people do not know how to behave on the roads sometimes. But short of that, this time around, you are safe to move. But as I always tell you, if it gets to 8 or even 15 minutes past 8, I cannot guarantee that you'll be finding the same update. So if you are moving to different parts of town, you are safer moving to these places that I've talked about as of now. First Street is clear, you are safe to move, and as you can see as well, Old Port Bay Road is also clear. There is no traffic that should be worrying you at this very moment. So if you're also trying to proceed to go to Kampala Road, there is no traffic whatsoever. Ginger Road is still safe, and this is the time you have to have crossed through if you should cross through at this very moment. And that leads us to the end of our traffic updates this morning. Thank you for sticking around. Good Morning Uganda agenda is coming up next.
Of the day on UBC.
Every Wednesday, 10 p.m. on your public broadcaster.
Was brought to you by Now get all the Chibuzi out with MTN voice bundles. Call all networks. Kubei Dondoro. Buy a 25-minute voice bundle for only 1,000 or buy any daily voice bundle of your choice. Dial *100*21# and select daily or use the My MTN app. When we talk together, we are unstoppable.
Juko.
Yo.
Check the shopping, man. What's your secret?
Haven't you heard of the parish development model PDM?
Yes, I did, but I thought it was just a talk.
No, Sebatia. It is real. I and a few friends together formed a circle, accessed money from the PDM, invested in a portrait project, and now things are moving.
Juko. I thought I was one of your friends.
You are.
But you left me behind.
I didn't leave you in poverty. What you do, just visit your LC2 chairperson and your parish chief and start the process of economic transformation. Just like that. The parish development model is an initiative from the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Local Government designed to transform all lives of Ugandans for the better. PDM, my parish, my development, my life.
A new dawn on Behind the Headlines with me, Timothy Nyangweso, every Wednesday live in our studios in the heart of Kampala. We have conversations that have analysis, explanation, but not every truth is fact and not every fact is truth. Every Wednesday, 10 p.m. on your public broadcaster.
All on your public broadcaster, UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Nyati Motion Pictures brings you Tuko Pamoja to the town or city near you. Between July and December this year, don't miss Uganda's beautiful stories from east to west, north to south in Tuko Pamoja.
Uganda, as we see it today, never had a name. It had the regions that make it.
The battle for protecting the sovereign Uganda was lost in Dokolo.
Uganda, fortunately for us, is a confluence of all these races, the races of Africa.
Burora would have simply created an East African community that we are looking for today.
The rulers of Burora are actually Luos.
Genetically, we are even
similar people.
We are one. Use that word, Pamoja.
To get a ticket, call 0778 787 660. Tuko Pamoja?
Ismail nga nino mudala guno gwenkolako teekawo okusobola okufunamu akasente akanyamba ne family mpola mpola badde driver nga nvuga naye nga bw'omanya ebintu by'okukozesebwa natuuka ekiseera mukama wange moroka neggwawo nentuula nga sinakyakola twetaba mu musomo ogwo ne tutandika okugusoma ne kansala n'atubuulira ne tulanga tusobola bwe tuyingira gundi ya gavumenti eyo nga tulaba okwewola sente mu banka nga tulanga banka zitutwala ate amagoba gaabwe mangi nnyo netugaka tuyingire ekintu kino gavumenti etukwatireko ekyanyingiza nnyo nyambibwa nti nsobola okusevinga ku sente obutonotono n'ekirala nti so okunyamba ku sente z'okukozesaako ewaka kuba olaba ekintu ky'osobola kuba twalwa ne defense ye neetaba mu kyamatooke nze ne neetaba ku kyeruga tukwase tukuumira awo obulamu nga tetulina capital tusuubula ensawo nga noleeta ensawo y'emboga n'ennyaanya ne tusuubuzaako abalala nabo ne batwala n'osobola okusigaza ebisigadde ne bisigala wano era n'ow'amatooke naye bw'akola bw'ati olunaku tugenda mu katale kumakya saa 11 n'osuubula w'osuubula n'oleeta n'osuubuzaako bali abatutte then ebisigaddewo n'obiteeka ku mudaala n'oguza bano abatwala ab'ewaka tusevingayo era osevingayo 2,200 sente zo weziwera era nazo woziteeka nga saving mukama wakubeerako n'endala n'osobola okwetaasa mu kintu ekirala oba ebizibu oba okwongera mu kapito oba nga tubeera ne fees bintu bingi ebitu challenge nyingi zetuba zitutunuulira naye saving oyo yakuyamba then n'ogatta ku kyoba ogasseeko n'osobola okumalawo obuzibu obulala obuba buzi mbagamba bakyetabe mu kintu kirungi nnyo bave ku ssente z'amabanka mbi nnyo banka zitwavuwazizza zitutte ebintu byaffe naye zino ssente za PDM nnungi nnyo bakyetabe kirungi.
Amanya gange nze Nanyonga Betty n'omudaala gw'amatooke ennyaanya ne kalonda yenna sinnaba kuzifunako naye tusevinga tusobole okuzifuna nsevinga buli wiiki 2,000 1,000 mu wiiki ennaku nga 3 2 1,000 bwentyo nsevinga sente ezo tusobole okufuna ziba sente za parish model zijja nange nsobole ozifunako nyongere mu bizinensi yange esobole okutambula zinyamba okubeera nti nsuubira okubeera nti nziteekayo olw'okusuubira okubeera nti mujja kutuwa ssente ezo namu tusanze tulina ke tulinayo akagattibwako akalabibwako nti tuli bakozi.
Amanya gange nze Nabuguzi Grace azini mu kusooka alina ekolera jange enjoyininga parish model babanga batuwaayo obuyambi nga loan sobole okweyimirizaawo nenfuna loan eyo netandikawo akaduuka kange kano kubanga olwedde nga nina obwetaavu bungi nina abaana bendabirira nenjagala ntandikewo n'abaana bange mbe nga nsobola obbalabirira era kati nsobola obbabeezaawo kale nawo n'abakyala anyambako tuna n'abakyala affe wano namuliiramu nabanga anyambako nensalawo kankole kano akaduuka kwezo sente ze baba bampadde kati ate nga mba nina okuzzaayo akaduuka ntunda amazzi ntunda obutunda soda era ze bampa nemba nga nfunako ka fridge kano don't call second hand bakanguzanga $3 edduuka nsasula $10 kyanga nkitandika almost kati ngenda mu mwaka njifunamu bange era ndesaawo abaana bange nsevinga okusevinga era nfunamu amagoba kubanga ngenda nensevinga lwentwayo nsevinga nga$2,700 bonna mbakubiriza omulanga baveeyo gye bali beyanjule tubafena twetaaga obuyambi kubanga embeera si nnungi teri ajeyagalira lwakuba nti tuba tetulina busobozi naye oba ofunye opportunity ng'olina abakuyamba kiba tekyetaagisa kuddamu eyo mbeera.
Amanya gange bampita Namutebi Hawa era nsika chips wano mu Lubaga Road B ku Musajja Rumba Flats. Ekibiina kya Policy Development Model kirungi nnyo lwakuba nange capital yali aweddewo naye akakadde akamu ke nnafuna yendabika eno gyendabikamu oba yembeera eno levu bwe mukoze eki bwe munsanze sitiiru senga safuna ku kakadde kitegeeza mwalize n'okunnambula nga sirina weempulira naye era kannyambye olwesenga nti kapita okumpi kati abeere nga yali aweddewo nengattiriza ku akakakadde okubeera wano wenkola ki wendi era abavubuka mbakubiriza zino sente kale abamu mufunamu okusomoozebwa nga bagamba pulezidenti waffe yatuwa omwaka gumu okuzzayo sente zino ng'ate disitulikiti endala baagiwa emyaka 2 okuzzayo sente nga beemulugunya nga bagamba ffe lwaki ab'e Kampala lwaki ffe be baawa omwaka ogumu okuzzaayo ki sente era tufuna okusomoozebwa kw'amaanyi nti omuntu omugamba buli Friday aleete sente ze ogumu 2 buli Friday kibakaluubiriza nnyo lwakuba bagamba ffe muzeeyi yatugamba sente za mwaka gumu ng'ozizzaayo ng'oteekamu n'amagoba ga 6,000 kati abavubuka kibakaluubiriza ate naffe nekituleetera obunkeeke ne tugamba ddala bano abavubuka sente zino omwaka guba guweddeko ogumu asobola okukwata kakadde kamwako n'akazza ng'olaba nakyo kiki kizibu ku sayidi eyaabwe buli wiiki tumekinga sure nti buli wakutano tuzaayo 2,000 mu 12,000 neza saving 15,000 gye 2,207 ze tuwa buli wakutano twawa abaana bakwaze ndi supervisor nondola abaana n'otuuka kubasumbuusa ne bagamba kati bannaye twasise sumbuusa twaguze katoni ne tusiika sumbuusa zaffe kesisi olwavudde eri yazikute nezikola ki kati oba ogenda babanja otya era okwo bw'obudde abadde agenda okubanja ssente ofundikira ate era otambudde okoze eki ogenze kati netufunamu okusomoozebwa okwo kati mpuzika ngamba senga pulezidenti waffe omulungi nga disitulikiti endala wezikola nti myaka 2 naffe tubadde tusaba at least sente ezo tuzize nga mu luvannyuma lwa myaka emeka 2 naye olwokuba ewe etteka lyayita dda simanyi kati ekirasinza okukalubiriza ennyo abavubuka era kwe kusomoozebwa okwo nga batugamba ffe disitulikiti endala tuwulya baaba wa myaka 2 ng'abamu balowooza ffe tubagalala kuba bagamba okukomyawo ki sente ezo era nga beemulugunya naye nga abavubuka mangi bakyetabye baagala okkyetabamu era mangi mbasikiriza bakyegatteko bakola sente olwedde ziri naye obuzibu obwo bwe tusanga nti olw'ensonga oli agamba proceedings bawanga omwaka guweddeko omwaka guba guweddeko nja kukwata sente zammwe nzikole ki nzibaddize naye nga teebereza abantu abasinga obungi abavubuka batambula kati ffe nga abali ku bukiiko ne tufunamu okusomoozebwa okwo naye nga kyalibadde ekirungi abavubuka okwetaba mu parish development model nnungi era sente zeziri era twazifuna si byakugamba nti balimba gyeziri
A new dawn on Behind the Headlines with me, Timothy Nyangweso. Every Wednesday, live in our studios in the heart of Kampala. We have conversations that have analysis, explanation, but not every truth is fact, and not every fact is truth. Every Wednesday, 10 p.m. on your public broadcaster.
All on your public broadcaster, UBC, inspiring Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
You're still watching Good Morning Uganda. Thank you so much for making an appointment with us every single morning. We don't take that for granted. It's because of you that we do what we do every single morning, Monday to Friday, to come here, educate you, inform you, inspire you, because that is our mandate as the national broadcaster. I'm Olive Monica Najuma, and this morning, now we go back into environmental conservation and fighting and saving our environment. Why am I saying this? It's because I have the National Environment Management Authority here with us to talk to us more about their initiative and the move to further remove illegal occupation in wetlands and catchment areas. Over the last couple of weeks, the National Environment Management Authority has come under fire and because of some Ugandans complaining that they are illegally taking them out of wetlands. Some claim that they had right to be in these places. A case in point is Daluvigi Saga, where more than 1,000 people were left homeless after National Environment Management Authority decided to evict them out of the Lubigi wetland, and people in the areas of Ganda were also affected. Now, because of that, other conversations came to the fore, and some people were saying, but you are removing the small fish. How about the big fish? And they named, among others, the police station that is in Lubigi, and then they mentioned Starbex petrol station that is also in Lubigi. But NEMA, we've had several conversations with them, especially with the executive director, Mr. Akankwasa, and he has clarified on why some of these people or these establishments are still in these areas and why. Now, yesterday, a new development: 7 Chinese nationals were arrested for illegally sand mining in the Rela swamp. Now, if you've traveled to Masaka or Burora, you know that that stretch has a place called Rela, which is a huge swamp. And these gentlemen were illegally sand mining. Now, illegal sand mining is illegal sand mining is not allowed, and this is provided for by Section 55 under the National Environment Management Act. But I am not the expert on this. I have Mr. William Lubura, who is the Senior Public Relations Officer at the Uganda Environment Management, at the National Environment Management Authority. He will be the one clarifying, and if I made any mistakes or allegations, he will be the one trying to explain to us further. So stay sit with me. Let's have this conversation. Good morning, Mr. William.
Good morning, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Is it a hot seat?
It's not as hot.
Not yet.
Not yet.
I promise it won't be. But Ugandans have questions.
Yes.
And they need answers.
And NEMA has the answers.
Now, you do have the answers.
NEMA has
That's
the answers.
Great. Now, let's start with the events that occurred yesterday. The 7 Chinese nationals that were arrested. Are we going to leave to see a day when justice is going to be served? Or this was just a media thing where we saw them on TV and then the case will just die a natural death?
Thank you very much for hosting me this morning. Definitely Ugandans will see this time, will see justice delivered and served. Yesterday, like you have said, NEMA swung into action. We went to Rera, and we, in our swoop, we captured a number of equipment. We captured sino trucks, excavators, and many others. But most importantly, we made arrest of 7 foreign nationals who are suspected to be Chinese, of Chinese origin.
Suspected to be of Chinese origin?
Yes.
You don't know for sure?
As a NEMA official, I may not tell, okay. But that is the suspect.
Mm.
Thank you.
Now, let's look at NEMA's role when it comes to environmental conservation and why you are interested in evicting all wetland encroachers.
Thank you very much. NEMA, I want to remind the viewers, that NEMA came into existence in 1995 by an act of parliament. And the full work started in 1996. What's our role as NEMA? NEMA, we do monitor, we supervise, we regulate, but also coordinate all activities to do with the environment in Uganda. That's our role, our major role.
Okay. So when you say that's your major role, you see many Ugandans have blamed NEMA for everything environmental related.
Yes.
If someone cuts a tree or if a forest is becoming extinct, we blame NEMA. If there are wetland encroaches, we still go back to NEMA. Anything to do with the environment, we go to NEMA. But I would like for you to clarify for us, is it because NEMA is concerned with everything environmental, or it has certain spaces it occupies and works with other agencies?
NEMA is the overall, the umbrella.
Okay.
NEMA is at the top. NEMA, like I've said, coordinates all activities to do with wetland management and conservation in Uganda. But of course, we work with so many other people, so many institutions. And I wouldn't blame the public or Ugandans for choosing NEMA anything environmental. We work with what we call lead agencies. For instance, the forestry, in the forest sector. We have the National Forest Authority. They take the lead in managing forests in Uganda. But as a coordinator here at the top, we also monitor what happens there. We supervise and coordinate activities therein. Another example is the wetlands. NEMA has been accused of anything and everything wrong about wetlands. And we still take the blame, and we take this blame in very, very good faith. But I would like to remind, maybe educate Ugandans that at the forefront, there is one big institution that many individuals are not talking about. That is the Wetlands Management Department.
Okay.
Wetlands Management Department sits in Luzira at the Ministry of Water and Environment. They are our lead agency when it comes to managing wetlands. But we normally take the blame.
That's
and we accept taking the blame.
Why do you accept taking the
Because
blame?
we are supposed to coordinate all activities in this environment, Ugandan environment. That's why we accept to take the blame.
Now, looking at the encroachment on wetlands, how widespread is this problem?
Encroachment on wetlands in Uganda is an extensive ill. For instance, Uganda loses wetland cover at the rate of 2% per annum. This is huge. And in 2000, we had a cover of 30,000 square kilometers of wetlands. But recently, this came to 22,500 square kilometers of cover, implying that in the last decade also, about 25% of our wetlands have gone. This is alarming. This is very much alarming, given the importance of wetlands.
Okay.
To our lives and to our animals, to the community, the environment in general.
Now, when you say that percentage of our wetlands has gone, can you clarify to us how has it gone? What are the causes of the loss of most of our wetland cover?
The major cause of the loss of the wetland cover is population pressure. What degrades the wetlands, and on the animals, and on the vehicles, but it's you and me, the human being. Ugandans were few, around 8 million Ugandans by the time of independence. Today, we are coming to make 46 million Ugandans. But the land space has not increased, has not gone bigger. Therefore, population pressure on the land available, marginal lands, all these places is high. And you see, for man to survive, you must do so many things. Our activities are the one pushing the environment to go into shambles, but still our activities are pressing hard on the wetlands.
And is this mainly in urban centers? When we talk about the wetlands that have been affected,
yes.
Is this mainly in urban centers where we have rural-urban migration, or even areas outside of urban centers and cities are also being affected?
The problem is cuts across the entire country, but the greatest challenge is seen in urban areas. Like in the city here in Kampala, Wachiso, Mbale, Mbarara, because those urban areas have a lot of, they have very many people, and we want to look for money left, right, and center all the time. So where there are high levels of population, that's where the greatest challenge is. Of course, I'll not say that the villages where many of us come from are safe. They are not safe. Many of these villages are beginning to see this challenge taking a bite.
Okay. Now, when it comes to, let's go back to the issue of the 7 individuals that are suspected to be of Chinese descent that were arrested yesterday for sand mining. In my small understanding of sand and construction, I know that sand mining is always happening in wetlands. So why are we saying that they were illegally sand mining from the Rela swamp?
Thank you very much. Sand mining takes place in those areas.
Yes.
And sand mining is a regulated function activity. It's a regulated activity. And these people had approval from NEMA at some point in time, but they have gone around the approval and they have misbehaved with our approval. They abused the conditions of the environmental and social impact assessment, and they had gone far beyond the area for which their sand mining was approved, had been approved.
Okay.
And then also, they were using rudimentary tools that are detrimental to our environment. So they were dredging a sand to as far as a kilometer away. So this is against the law, the National Environment Act, CAP 181. So this is why we are faulting them.
Oh, I understand. And there are also reports that they had been asked to restore that area. How exactly is this restoration done after the sand has been mined?
When you scoop out the sand, you are expected to, because you create huge holes, etc. You are expected to cover, to bring soil, to cover these places. You are expected to help vegetation grow back, grow as it used to be. But in April this year, we asked these people to restore the degraded areas. They never did this. Then a few weeks ago, we heard that they had resumed work. And we said, no, Ugandans are going to say that we do not handle the big fish, like normally you people say. So that's why we swung into action yesterday. Late in the night of Monday, we are already on site, and that is how we got them.
So you finally got
Yeah, we are finally, NEMA is finally getting there, because the law that within which we operate does not discriminate. It's not selective like many of us have been thinking. The law looks at who has misbehaved in using our environment, who is torturing, I want to use the word torturing, who is torturing this wetland, who is doing the wrong, who is against the law. Is it the small fish, like you people say, mukene, or is it the huge
Nile patch?
Nile patch. So the law does not discriminate, and we shall continue.
Well, that's what we hear NEMA saying, that the law does not discriminate. But there are many places where, if you walk around the city, for example, there are establishments you're going to see that are in places that are evidently swampy areas. But when I talked to Dr. Akankwasa, the Executive Director, the National Environment Management Authority, he said some people are occupying some of those places because they had licenses to be there way before. So I would like for you to talk to us about the revocation of licenses in swampy areas, because Ugandans probably need to understand this and stop saying that the big fish are left to stand and yet the small fish are taken out.
Okay. By the way, government is not getting away the licenses, the approvals from the people occupying these fragile ecosystems. No. Government stopped issuing approvals on 2nd September 2021, and there are no new approvals. That is the stand. That is the strategic stand.
But for those that
those that have
yes,
or had approvals from government will definitely continue. But how do we approve? We approve, but with conditions.
Okay.
That you are going to do ABCD, but when you are doing ABCD, do 1, 2, and 3. Do not do, or do not go beyond this. Do not go and do 4 and 5. So those are the conditions. You do your assessment of the project. We environmental and social impact assessment. You come, our technical experts look at the project, assess the likely challenges you are going to cause to this environment, and we also we tell you, we ask you how you intend to mitigate this, and then we advise accordingly. So once we are convinced that your project is likely to be sustainable, that's when we issue the approval. But many times, many developers go against the approval conditions. And when you do that, we definitely come for you and ask you to behave. Many people have paid fines. Many people have been asked to restore the degraded areas. We have taken many to court, and we are continuing to do that. So when you are, those who have approvals operate within certain confines. They operate within certain conditions. They are not just operating like speech talk for.
That's an interesting take. So how many of the wetland cover that we have, how many of the wetlands that we have as Uganda have been severely affected by encroachment?
Thank you very much. Well, I may not have the statistics now, but I want us to look at the general picture of the 8,613 wetlands that are protected, fully protected, in the Uganda Wetlands Atlas. 8,613. And I told you earlier on that to date we are talking about roughly 25% of these wetlands degraded. So I think it's a huge thing. And there are very many. But in here, close here, Kampala, Wachiso will talk about basically Lubiji, a wetland system. Sabagabo, this side, Sabagabo Machinde.
Makinde, yes.
I talk about Kalidubi and so many others.
Now, we are speaking about NEMA's move to remove all wetland encroachers in Uganda. Anyone you know, company, small, big, individuals that are encroaching on wetlands are going to be evicted by the National Environment Management Authority. And they have already started. They started in Nansana, in the area of Lubigi, and some people in the areas of Ganda did not miss out. They lost their homes because NEMA said that some of these individuals were established in swampy areas, and they are now clarifying on why they need to do the eviction. But first of all, before we even go into, because I would like for you to tell us about the steps of eviction you take before an eviction is it takes place. But before that, maybe help us understand what is a wetland and what is the importance of a wetland to humans and to the environment in general.
A wetland is, there are two types of wetlands. Wetlands are either permanent or seasonal.
Yes.
Many wetlands are permanent, yes. Many of them are seasonal. But any area that permanently or seasonally has that kind of water flooding, saturated with water, is a wetland. But that definition notwithstanding, you can also look at the characteristics normally of this kind of area. As we know it, they are plants that are accustomed to being in the wetlands, and these are papyrus, basically. So when you see papyrus and it's not, it has not been grown maybe in a home, in a pot or something, then it's likely that that place is a wetland.
Okay.
You are talking about, or you asked me about the value of wetlands also.
Yes.
Value, the wetland is very valuable. I'll give an example of Lubigi here. Lubigi is very important to the lives of people in Wakiso, Nansana Wakiso district, and Kampala and the surrounding areas.
How important? How
important is this? Lubigi, first of all, absorbs the excess water when it rains. Uganda, we are blessed. We receive lots of water, and when we get this, the lots of water, instead of this water running off into our houses, it is kept. Lubigi comes in and says, let us keep this, and eventually releases it slowly by slowly when it is very, very, very hot during dry periods. Wetlands, not only Lubigi, they act as rainfall makers. They contribute rainfall formation. They make the weather modified of micro weather of a particular place. Now, like Wakiso and Kampala here. So our weather is moderated because of the wetland. There is erosion control. Instead of water running off and continuing through, it is stopped. It is checked by the wetlands. And wetlands are also centers for habitats. They act as their homes for small fish, for small things, for food, like you can pick fruits from there. And wetlands are also important for aesthetic purposes. Aesthetic purposes that translate into tourism. You see, people in tourism, people go or people come to see beauty.
That's right.
So the very nature of the wetlands is beautiful enough, untampered with. It's beautiful enough. So they act as that, and they have the birders come and watch the birds, But now, because we are degrading these wetlands, all this life is going away. The plant life is going away. The birds are running, and so many other things. Wetlands also support us with the domestic water. People go and fetch water from direct from the wetlands for home use, and this is I think this is sustainable. This is sustainable. Wetlands also purify wastewater. We have got toilets, for instance, toilets in Kampala here, toilets in Wachiso, toilets everywhere. And you see flush. When you flush, where does this water go? So these wetlands try to purify the water, and then our life continues.
Now, there is a document that has been making rounds on social media,
Yes.
purported to be from the National Environment Management Authority. And it is, the title of the document is Cancellation of Titles in lands or titles in wetlands on public land, and it goes to mention some of these wetlands. One of them is Upper Chinawataka between Ntinda and Chambogo Hills up to Kampala Jinja Highway, and then another one is Vubyabirenge wetland between Bukoto Ntinda and Naguru Hills, Nakawa Chinawataka section up to the Riri line, then Kawoya wetland across the Kampala Jinja Road up to the Riri line, and Wankolokolo wetland up in Kasokoso, and then Chinawataka wetland between the Riri line up to Lake Victoria and Namuwongo area, among others. Is this document correct? Is it because I've seen it on social media, and on social media people can share pretty much anything. So is this a legit document?
I wouldn't like to say it is legit. Like you said, it's purported. I've not seen that kind of document where I sit at NEMA.
Yes.
And two, NEMA does not cancel titles, because we don't issue titles.
Okay.
If you do not issue a title, if you do not issue, you cannot cancel. We do not issue titles, and therefore we cannot cancel any titles. But of course we work with the government agencies and so many other institutions. Now, we know that some government section, like Ministry of Lands and Lands Commission,
yes,
they work with titles, and we know there are some titles that have been cancelled, but we have not come out right to tell the world that, look, NEMA is going to cancel title A, title B. No, that's not right.
The document I saw was addressed to Kampala Capital City Authority, but like you said, you cannot really tell if it's true or not. I believe we will know in time.
And I'll not speak for KCCA.
Exactly. And I believe we will know whether the document is legit or not in time. But for now, let's now look back still on the removal of all wetland encroachers. What steps does NEMA take before evictions take place? Because in the case of Lubigi, there were claims that people were blindsided, that they were not informed prior that evictions were going to take place. Do you know for sure if this is true, or people are just telling lies?
They are just claims. NEMA is systematic. This is how we approach evictions. Our field inspectors identify a place that this fragile ecosystem is being tampered with. They come report to the offices, to the executive director, who now dispatches a team, another team, to go and meet the local leadership. So when the local leadership is met, we speak with these people, and then we finally decide on a day to speak with the communities, and which we do, and which we've been doing all along for the case of Lubigi. We started engagement in 2012, and you remember in 2012 NEMA evicted people in Lubigi. There was a one Bemba Musota and the others. You probably remember that.
Yes, I do.
So what we do, we go meet the communities, sensitize them about, one, the importance of a wetland, two, their role as people, because by the way, in Uganda, environment management is a decentralized function, and the law puts the duty on you, the individual, to make sure that you are living in a clean and healthy environment.
That's right.
Now, we speak to them about the evil they have committed, and we tell them the likely consequences. We speak to them about the law. The National Environment Act, Cap 181, criminalizes misbehavior when it comes to misuse of the environment. And in this case, we are talking about wetlands. That is Section 55 of the Act. So when we speak to them, we tell them, and after telling them what they have done, then we go into mapping. We map our wetland. We tell them that the wetland passes here. It moves like this. It moves like this. Therefore, House A and Activity T are in a wetland. And we tell them that we are going to come and ask you to go if you do not go now. So what happens next? From our offices here, the ED writes a letter to these communities, to the individuals. This is called a restoration order, stroke eviction notice. It specifies what you've done, and it tells you what to do. That when you are going, kindly leave the wetland. And when you are going, make sure you leave the place you had degraded in this shape, in a better shape. Make sure you restore this place.
All right.
So these are the processes. But then when people refuse to go, that's when you see NEMA and CO come in to help them go. To help them go.
To help them go.
Yes.
I like your choice of words, because what we saw in Lubigi was not really helping. It was pushing them out.
You see, when the law comes to you and asks you tells you that you are at fault, please, in 21 days, leave. And when we give this restoration order, we give you 21 days. The restoration order gives you 21 days. This is by law, that within which to leave and restore, but leave the land restored. But in these 21 days, you can say, no, I'm not in a wetland. You can either come to NEMA and engage, but when we still tell you that, no, this is a wetland, you can seek guidance from the courts of law.
But
Mr.
Burora,
yes,
one
please.
of the key complaints that have come out of this eviction exercise, especially in Lubigi,
yes,
there are people that have occupied this land for more than 10, 15, 20 years, and they say they've never known their land to be in a wetland. And you've been carrying out evictions, especially in Lubigi, over a period of time,
yes,
over a period of years, and you've mentioned some of the exercises that have been carried out in the past. So how come that out of the blue, the people that have been occupying lands for 15, 20, 30 years are now suddenly in what you're calling a wetland? Do wetlands extend like the lake extends? Please make us understand that.
I wouldn't say the wetlands have extended. But these people, you see, when you are in the wrong, you want to draw pity from society, from the world.
That's right.
And this is what I think these evictees
you think they are seeking pity?
are trying to do. When a person says that they have been in that place for so many years, and yet records show that in 2012, NEMA evicted everybody and Lubigi remained empty and clean. That is a period of about 12 years.
That's right.
That's a period of about 12 years. You leave a place clean, and then people say that they have been there for many years, more than 12 years.
Even the people that were in Uganda, had they been affected in the 2012 eviction?
I wouldn't say that, but you see, we've had quite a number of challenges as the institution. We've been getting a small budget to help us do our duties. But now we are happy. Government is giving us more funds, because government has realized that there is need to protect our wetlands and the environment. So they are giving us now more funds to protect, and that's why Ugandans are beginning to see us more on ground.
So my understanding is that the people you didn't touch, let's say in 2012, it wasn't because they were not in a wetland, it was because you didn't have sufficient budget to get rid of them at the same time.
And these people have been just cunning, because they've had our markers X on their houses for long. But then when they saw us, it's because
how long have they had the markers?
We marked. You see, before we evict, we mark.
We map and
mark.
Okay.
We map and mark activities or establishments, makeshift houses that are going to go. And this we did. We did.
You did that in the 21 days.
You've been talking about social media.
Yes.
Social media still is awash with pictures of NEMA doing these actions in 2012, 2013, 2018 in Lubiji. Ugandans are being just stubborn. Ugandans are just being stubborn.
Well, we have been speaking about the move by the National Environment Management Authority to evict all wetland encroachers. And in their defense, they're saying that they're not only against or after what we call the small fish, but they are also after the big fish. A case in point, the 7 gentlemen that were arrested yesterday in Dalwera swamp. They were sand mining, and according to NEMA, their license had expired, and they had been also instructed to restore the wetland, which they didn't do. And yesterday, NEMA swam in, and they swooped in, and they had these men, or suspected to be of Chinese descent, arrested. Now, we will be following this case to see whether or not justice will be served. But for now, thank you so much, Mr. William Lubora, for speaking with us. Mr. William Lubora is the Senior Public Relations Officer at the National Environment Management Authority. Thank you.
Thank you very much for hosting me.
And I hope you, dear viewer, have gotten some of your questions answered, and you've gotten an understanding as to why the National Environment Management Authority needs to evict all wetland encroachers so that we can conserve our environment. Across the country. It's not happening in only Kampala, in Kosovo, in Nansana, in Makindye. No, it's going to be happening across the country. And everyone that is encroaching wetlands, whether through farming or sand mining or through permanent structures like houses, is going to be affected. You're still watching Good Morning Uganda. I'm Olive Monica Najuma, and Ruben Mpima is coming up next with sports updates.
Pick of the day on UBC.
Every Wednesday, 10 p.m. on your public broadcaster.
Was brought to you by. You can now get all the Chibuzi out with MTN voice bundles. Call all networks. Kubei Dondoro. Buy a 25-minute voice bundle for only 1,000. Or buy any daily voice bundle of your choice. Dial *100 *21 hash and select daily, or use the MyMTN app. When we talk together, we are unstoppable.
Juko.
Yo.
Check the shopping, man. What's your secret?
Haven't you heard of the parish development model PDM?
Yes, I did, but I thought it was just a talk.
No, Sebatia. It is real. I and a few friends formed a circle, accessed money from the PDM, invested in a poultry project, and now things are moving.
Joko, I thought I was one of your friends.
You are.
But you left me behind.
I didn't leave you in poverty. What you do, just visit your LC2 chairperson and your parish chief, and start the process of economic transformation. Just like that. The parish development model is an initiative from the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Local Government designed to transform all lives of Ugandans for the better. PDM, my parish, my development, my life.
A new dawn on Behind the Headlines with me, Timothy Nyangweso, every Wednesday live in our studios in the heart of Kampala. We have conversations that have analysis, explanation, but not every truth is fact and not every fact is truth. Every Wednesday, 10 p.m. on your public broadcaster.
All on your public broadcaster, UBC, inspiring Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.